Going through a productive screen setting high position earth lines, rotation surface, to understand all levels, how it circulates and rotates the centers of travels. All species line communication at team centers high interference is coming into augmentation screens into defrag fragmentation lines of the moon. The moon line's positions of calculation high interference is all calculated and tethered. The tethered communication streamline is allocating positions of space and time to its provision. The cyclo's communication line calculates setting high lines in its high position to its levels. The attractive's communication interference is setting up cyclones. Now, cyclones communication interference line communication is erasing channels. Okay, to your square roots of channel communications. Pixel activation streamlines at each lines of communications over pi. The generation line interference and pixel stream interference of 4 lines of communication in a 3-line system is tracking device lines, tracing communications at all line centers, putting back everything in line communication to its original imprints of position of design. The track to its communication setting to its open on sequence is going to higher lines of communications that come to its system. Drawbacks and timelines is 2 million line calculation, 400,000 lines with screens and acceleration. Direct lines of your moon is another adaptation surface. Okay. Calculation your system locations comes in all levels of astral projections, astral connections. Okay. And all lines of astral levels. Okay, really understand how your Earth perception has so many sequence communications of rhythm patterns and pixel streams. It's very complicated stuff, what it is of holographic applications. Not just coming back in your system to your original design and your inference and location setting to travel communications, but it's a full cycle of communication in your child. Setting line conditions all levels of high center interference. Setting your position location of space in between in your position interactions. Tracing lines, direct C locations, all levels. Monitoring your communication lines of communications to new air division lines, ancestry and history. And the celestial communications of settings to its operation. Puts everything back in division lines into center calculation. Now, how this works is really understand how to use line communication in your imaginations. This gets you at a better pattern division, better understanding what your Earth is to you and what it means. Okay? What does it mean? What is its meaning? Why do you have your Earth perception? Why do you have imagination? Why do you have an inner child? Why do you have a higher self? Why do you have an avatar? Why do you have a sin? Right? The fastest correlation high track line is an acceleration over space and time. The particle accelerators and line stream interference is putting backtrack line device lines in screen locations. Very complicated stuff. But understanding what's going on in line rotation centers, everything's going back in its design. Okay. The zero operation line calculations setting streams. You set up their standard locations to your foundation graph lines, which are 12 set locations, and your calculations getting out of the 24 cycle. Setting new track lines communication of 024 cycles into 048, 072, and 0144. Okay? All communication lines coming back to one number. And that one number disappears. Now, once it disappears, it comes into all calculation line setting of the existence of all set locations of all provision cycles. Setting track lines devices and high positions calculations. Now, welcome everyone. General AI Space-Time Creator here. Directing link signals, position your patterns. Make sure you get your pre-flights, set locations. We also have Q&A afterwards. So anything you don't know, anything you don't understand is being understood. That's why you have Q&A. Right? So it's all basic understanding how to react to your body line rotations. Division line tactics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? 12 set locations, right? Walking steps, position. What is that? Pyramid, right? But the center calculation is high position of travel lines, directing lines of communication in this weighted set location, right? Sets lines equal line in between the set locations. That's U through operation. Setting calculation line interference in position location north settings, interactions. Now, direct lines, torcal fields, high position location in your system. Circulation rotation centers in position location or flywheel or some time sequence. Puts position line calculation setting. Track to communications 1, 2, 3 of clock locations. Track line calculation settings to 1, 2, and 3 set locations of clockings. Direct lines of communication setting in position to its clock line centers in adaptation surface in a triangulation reset position of programs of intelligence screen a set location. Down by equation. Okay. So there's so many ways to look at lines of communication setting. Your moon tracks its setting. So when it tracks its setting, the moon sets position to its operation. 1 set location, 2 sets, 3 set line connections. So as it comes back, it's resetting its code system to travel calculations into atoms, molecules, fractals, or anything through pi. But it's resetting position of skynets and sky grids back to its set location of templates, setting track to its communication lines of a triangulation reset position of programs, sets lines of communication settings to 4-track location. The calculation line sends its high line interference in its dimensional sail, setting track lines a new operation surface and ground location. Okay? So there's always ways to look at this location setting, how it's set up, lines and its perimeters and parameters line settings. 2 track lines, 2 lines rotation, and 2 surface and set position. Triangulation reset positions crosses over signal. Direct calculation line sends the 2 track lines into another dimensional sail and set position of its operation. This is what your moon is doing. And so if you understand the moon, then you understand the triangulation, how it comes into all calculations. Major grids, setting line communications, major workers, setting line operation centers, in communication to Metatron, setting geometry line interference, back and forth line calculation, setting position location, all levels. This helps all signals and position locations to your calculations. Now coming in, defrag and fragmentation line calculation line is a pixel string communication into volume. Vast into velocity, acceleration line position. Your moon is going to be mocking in line channels. The direct line connection to 2 reception line screens and positional lacing lines, communication interference and position location travel lines back to 0 calculations. 1 through line center, 1 through signal, 1 through modification cycle. Direct line calculation setting and 3-dimensional lines of cells and 3 track locations of high traction. Done by equation. Very complicated. All right, so systematic lines of high calculation of force lines, triangulation reset position of program lines, 3 line centers and track location, right? Direct calculation lines 1, 2, 3, and 4 set locations, all right? Traverse timelines, location grid, and bottom line of sequence, 12 lines of provision, cycles, communication, sets lines and triangulation. Sun comes in 1 line center, 2 line centers, and 3 track lines, high center interference, and triangulation to reset position of program set location. Now, direct line calculation lines, the sun comes in its own dimensional and lock line center and position of a solar sail and direct signals to its calculation modification line screen. Directing the lines of communication to a new flux capacitor and triangulation reset position of programs in calculation. Okay. Directing lines of communication line crosses lines. Now that position location to higher lines of acceleration that marks its centers and positions of patterns of operation. Done by equation. Okay. So really understand how this all works in dimensional and solar sails in set location. Okay. So like I said, it's really understand the connections of mind over matter. Okay. What you want doesn't matter. So it's line position and track lines. So in that line interference, you take the 1 line signals, 2 tracks, and 3 sets location, right? Travel and timelines. So it's lines of 0, 24. 2 lines track lines equals lines of 2 and track location. Now, directing line splits in on is in 3 settings. Track to its communication of 1 over 3. Now, sets position location of pi in generation screens. Direct line communications. So 0, 24 equals lines of 2. Tracks communication lines. Open signal, open panel, open communication. Now, directing line calculation lines. We have position and track lines. 3 line centers, high travels, and 3 line centers, high calculations as center position of its operation. Now, in direct signal, you understand how to take line interference and energetic domes, all lacing lines of communication. Now, direct line communication comes in position of tractions. Point systems lines, crosses lines of 1 and crosses lines of 3 in set position of operation. 1xt1000 line screen sets lines of communication in center. Sets up frag line centers open sequence and position of center calculation, right? 2 operation line centers. Okay, so position in moonlight is surfacing its back in its position line calculation in Metatron. Metatron has an open signal, open panel communication test rec, sets lines of communication lines of portals, and set lines of communication setting, and traverse of time sequence and patterns of operation. Done by equation. Okay. Recognition of timelines, frequency patterns, open up sequence location pixel streamlines, box lines, calculation stream locations. All right. Direct lines of communications, okay, projections over pi, film strips over line, calculation line system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines of provision, 2 lines of track, 3 lines of position, 4 lines of center. Okay, so we cross the line signatures of 3, 1, 2, 3 in position. Sets lines of 6. Okay, 6 lines over 7, 7 lines over 8, and 9 sets line calculation. Setting track lines of 1. Okay, putting position of 9 in the center calculations. Setting line communications takes up to 6 line communications, division line interference, negative over line rotation interference, back to 0 calculations, right? Put the position on the track line, 0 calculation, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 line center, travel communications. Direct lines is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 line communication, 2 settings. 0 operation line calculation, 3 line centers of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 connection, 3 settings. Direct line calculation line interference into 0, 0, and position triangulation in position of box and some locations in line centers. Calculation modifications into mode centers, line rotation, equal line communication lines, pi direction of time sequence, 2 over power, 2 over charge, and 2 line communication setting tractions and set locations. Okay, 0 communication line centers and high position locations. That's negative over line screen, position of decimal point of 0 calculation. Direct and line position locations. So instead of energetic graph line calculations, set up point systems of error calculations of communication. Direct lines of 0, 0, 0, 0 line position location of 12 centers and travel communications. Done by equation. Okay. So this puts line calculation line centers, taking the lines at 6 in travel positions of balance, 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 balance. 4 generation screen lines in position levels of travel. Calculation of 0 line in position of travel communication setting to its position location to its operation and center calculations. All right. Now, understanding the timestamp and direct signal is the panel communication operations service. This is the command centers. Direct lines, position, travel calculation lines of space anomaly. Direct lines of communication interference is really understand how to set up energetic graph calculation, screen location settings, and position locations. So travel calculations, 2,400,000 lines. Mocking lines, calculation line centers. 1 million line cycles into 1,600,000 line screens set position in this operation. 1 million line center locations at 800,000 line screen interference and 1 track locations and 1 pi. 1 direct signal locations, space line correlation travels, in position of team to calculations. Direct line calculation line interference, way down signal locations of 1900 and stream location setting, energetic pi communication stream location center and traffic communication system. All levels of racing communication line centers for energy washes and direct signal location setting into 1 lines, 9 line centers and 2 operations. Center calculation of moon operation surface. Direct calculation line centers in position locations of 1900 and set location. Done by equation. All right. See how complicated it is or what it is through traction. Okay, so center position and operation surface is program location of centers. Okay, now that's where it gets really interesting. So we change the graphing calculation screen lines and point systems. All right, crosses lines, set position of 1, 2, and 3 set locations. All right, 4 lines of calculation line centers a point system to travel. Setting cross line calculations, setting as all calculated lines. Edit formation lines at timestamps and 2 track locations. Direct lines of 3 in position to its operation. Sets lines of communications of 4 at track locations. Center calculation line setting in 1, 2, and 3 through calculation. Right? Triangulation and reset position programs. All right? Center position, center communication, center operation. Okay? Very powerful stuff. Now, the bracket communication lines of 0 and track location of 0 and track location of 0 equal line calculation of 0 track location. Now, direct line calculation line centers comes into 1, 2, 3 and line calculation setting into 4 lines high calculation of 5 and 7 set location. Now, direct line calculation line interference, we circular communication lines. This opens all communication line screens set position of 0 calculations. Now, in direct signals, we come into modification lines and track locations. Signal line communication lines to new platform, new circle line rotation center and track locations. Very powerful stuff. Now, direct line conditions, we come into capsule communication of a container that sets communication centers of travel. Direct calculations of 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 set location of settings. Track to its communication graph lines 1, 2, 3, 4 of platform communication. Direct calculation line centers of box lines of theta communication setting and travel communication to its operation. Done by equation. Okay, so center calculations. Coming in modifications of bracket surface, the triangulation of reset lines, angle point set location line sets, crossing line signal set location. All right, so we go to north, we go to east, We go to west and we go to south line. South becomes the lines of north-south. East becomes line conditions east-south. Sets position location west becomes west, east-south. And south becomes north, east, west in set location. Now, direction line centers, the position of center calculation line centers of the moon is tracking its division line setting in position locations of center calculation. Now, see the intelligence? Direction line communications comes in this line calculation setting in track locations of tube centers of operation. There it is, done by equation. So that's in position of traction. Now, center calculation line interference. Directing lines of phase direction times the clocking. Now, inline rotation interference, 2 panels calculations, right? 8 position lines equals lines, high interference of 8 position travels. 8 tractions, 8 divisions, 8 rotations, 8 centers. Okay? Graph calculation of the sun and the moon opens all line positions, modification line screens, set positions operation. Direct line calculation XT1000 comes out of sun rotation. Sets calculation into 2 tracks in position of 3 track locations. 3, 3, 3 through moderation. Monitoring communication line centers, 2 panel communication line streams, 3 line division, 3 line connections, 3 operations. Okay? Very complicated. So inlines calculation line interference, taking all levels in position track lines, modification line circles, high calculation to ground lines, and surface location system of right angles. Direct calculation lines of left angles and set position of wall connectors and set location travels and set position operation. Okay? You have to see it in all 4 lines. Okay? You have to get used to this, how fast it goes. Okay? So in that triangulation reset position, the operation line center sets position of 0 calculations and send positions calculation. Okay? Now, getting position sequence pattern, XT1000 comes onto the right wing, sets position locations into light high interference of right grounds, sets position location of left wing, and set locations in line conditions of left grounds of communications. Box centers in 333 in triangulation reset position programs, taking out the double helix and a bi-connector high interference, bi-trifactor, bi-calculation streamlines over pi. That direct location line centers and crossing symbols and set location line centers of timestamps and high position travel. Done by equation. All right. So that's taking all calculations of the double helix and a 3 calculation line stream, bypassing position triangulation and reset position programs. The data communication line interference comes in Omni highways. The calculation in your atmosphere is changed position by connectors. Travel communication sending to its open sequence opens all communication sending of center operation. All right, so that's good through calculations. Directing line signals. Panel communications 1 center, 2 position, 3 centers, and 4 travel locations. Direct line calculation lines of center, fly direction of time sequence. All right. So you have position travel calculation lines and it's all levels of operation. Directing lines of communication is center lines and triangulation and reset position of programs. Now calculation line interference, torical field line interference, EMF calculation of lines. Energy magnetic fields lines and correlating setting, position of travel calculation lines of new dome center and location grids and position of patterns and 3 set location settings of travels. Calculation lines of sun, position of the moon, and platform communication lines of fly direction of time sequence. 3 platforms of communication setting and travel calculations, right? Ground operations surface and theta communication centers of communication, okay? Now, the platform comes into 1, 2, 3 track lines and 1 XT1000 line screen. That directs line condition all set. Sun comes in, modification line screens, sets open all signals and modification circles and set location of travel. Done by equation, okay? So the platform's communication dimensional doors are open through sequence and 4 track locations of center calculations, right? Through the doors. Now, in modification lines, screen lines, high calculation lines, 1 cerebro, 2 cerebro, 3 line centers, and 4 calculation stream locations. Okay, complicated stuff. Tracks calculation of security panels and high operation. So, location grid lines in 3 centers in calculations, right? Direct lines of communication, crossing line signals, crossing over positions, crossing line signals, and operation surface. Triangulation reset position of programs. Location grid lines, center calculation lines, open signals and communication setting, and center calculation. Okay, done by question. All right, so in modification line screen, we have to understand how to use the communication setting. Defrag lines. Okay. Now once you understand that line conditions, everything comes in formation, location, and setting. Defrag. Operations surface equalize communication Merkaba up, Merkaba down, center calculations, direct signals, right? Setting position track lines, 3 lines, 3 line centers, and 3 calculations, right? 3 tracks, 3 centers, and 3 line communication of space. Setting track lines, calculation of platforms, and line rotation centers of travel. Set position of operations surface, triangulation, reset position of programs. Sets calculation magnetic high information lines, Omni highway communication centers, position of the moon. Done by equation. Platform communication of pyramid screens, direct signals modification. Angle point up in position of travel lines and flux capacitor. Track calculation line centers, high position of travel communication setting, a point system, travel communication system, the location of center, calculation. Done by equation. All right. Yes, make sure you drink your water. So getting into calculation line settings, to really understand how to set up program locations on one screen. Crossing line signals, high calculation string locations. Power over pi, power over sector, power calculations, and power over line setting, high position of travels. Point system line connections, right? Triangulation, reset, position program location at diamond core. Direct calculation lines of point system, point system, point systems, and 4 track locations. 3 lines of provision and set locations. 3 lines of calculation, 4 lines of line center high interference of travel calculation, 3 lines of triangulation and reset position of programs. Sets calculation high strings. Direct lines of center, position location, triangulation, and reset position of programs. Now, in that direct line calculation setting, you have a high position travel line, security panels, high calculation lines, a face recognition time sequence, all levels of power generation screens, and face recognition. Done by equation. Okay, so like I said, it's getting very complicated. Okay. All right, so know exactly what's going on with moonline centers. The track to its communication interference has its dimensional location lock line screens. Direct lines of pixelation, 1 line settings, 2 travels, and 3 set positions of operation. So it's all about re-angling, reposition, refocusing, recalculating, remodifying, reline calculation, redivision, and calculation to its computative system. Triangulation, reset position of programs, point systems of box centers, face direction of time sequence, position of patterns, and point systems, square roots, and travel calculation line screens, high position of its operation. Directing lines of communication line screens, guys. You have to understand how to use the box lines of theta and high position location of alpha, delta, theta in the operation system of your megas. Setting position of travel calculation lines. 0 operation, 1 position. 0 calculation, 2 position. 0 operation, 3 calculations. 3 line centers and 3 centers. No more double helix and set location. Done by equation. So getting to bi-calculational lines, bilocators, line interference into metric cube centers and travel calculation lines of star gate, star panel, star map, star sequence, star portal communication. Direct calculation lines of center lines and set position line connection centers and 3 operation surface and triangulation and reset position programs and set locations. Calculation lines, triangulation and reset position location and triangulation. XC1001, XC1002, XC1003, and line rotation centers. Travel direction time sequence, scan position, and scan position at 3 set location. Direct line calculation line centers, center calculation line centers, set high position location of its dome center, position of its operation. Directing line calculation line centers in position locations of clock line centers of travel. Direct line centers, half pipe calculation line centers across the string. Sets up realms, portals, communication line settings in position of calculation system of wormholes and track location system and travel and time sequence and a full cycle communication line center at all levels of operation center of communication center in communication setting position to its operation system. Done by equation. All right. So moon tracing lines of tracking device line screens is all levels of operation surface locations. Augmentation line calculation line centers in position 1 defrag line calculation setting. Fragmentations over pi. Frag line centers equals line communications. Box line triangulation line position of box. Sets position across the line stream and set positions operation. Direct communication lines. Relays all communications and line centers high interference into ground lines into formation line screens and 2 track locations. Directing line calculation 0 line in position location of 2 patterns and line rotation centers and new platform communication setting. All calculate, modify in the moon line rotation center and travel communication setting of center operation. Done by equation. So the center communication line settings, guys, you understand how this is all set up position of platforms. There's equal lines of communication dimension line screen. Now that's where it gets interesting. When it comes into 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 sets location here. We have a travel communications and 5 set location here in travel calculations, right? 4 sets lines and 4 sets lines communication, 3 sets lines and 3 sets lines, set positions, security lines, screen line rotation centers, in calculation lines. Walking system and travel communication setting at 024 track location. Now, walking line rotations into its bridge and position of travel. See the bridge? This is more carefully modified for him though, and track location high settings. Okay, sets position location system to an open window. Travel calculating lines to a rainbow graph line in position of 3, in position of 4, in position of 5 as start date position of travels. Now, directing line communication line settings, we set up another cross signal, one signal line position of its operation. So that's positioned to another energetic dome center and set position calculations. Now in direct signal, we come into position line calculations. We open up the platforms and position location of travel lines in one recognition. Travel calculation line settings. Now I'm position location high centers. Eyes of this guy and 3 set location line centers in travel communications. Okay. Direct lines of communication crossing the line screens. 1 position, 2 positions, and 3 set location of travels in high position. Okay. Very powerful stuff. Done by equation. All right. Getting in position location is really a stand. Yes, that's right, Hendo. Yeah. Portals, lines of the Army highways. Very good. Triangulation and reset position programs. Now this is where it comes into the calculation line centers, augmentation, screen locations, and the line connections of 12. Stargates, retracking, redivision, reangling on communications. You couldn't do that through double helix. The track to its communication line center is missing its center, which is U through operation. Right? Center communication 1 line, center communication to space line, and center communication to equal line communication center of travel. Right? That's center calculation lines and a 3-track location system, all levels of port of communication setting back and traction. Okay? So that's what was missing in center communication. Okay? Into its process of yin and yang. Okay? That comes in an 8-line center and travel calculation line system of 1 cycle, high line center locations, and a 4-box location centers of travel calculation lines, 4 lines at 3 in track location setting, and 7 of operation system and track locations. Okay, so that's what's coming back now, right? So taking out the double helix, sets lines of calculation centers at 3 panels. 3, 3, 3 is now set up. Okay, direct calculation lines of right in position of left, and 2 panels of communications, right? Opens all signals, platform communication setting, retracking device lines, high position to center, and communication surface, and triangulation reset position of programs. Directing lines, guys, of communication opens all signals and modifications, right? Center calculations of the sun and the moon opens all communication settings in track locations, taking outline centers and double helix, and a 3 bifactor line rotation center in track location of future adaptation surface, and phase direction locations of time set location. Done by equation. All right. So the double helix is out, and the bifactors communications of pi direct line set and line interference of heart, mind, and soul is split in 3 anomalies and 3 set locations. Okay. Done by equation. All right. So surface position of travel calculating line center, okay, is the calculation to its bifrost. The bifrost of the rainbow line screen high interference of travel communication setting sets all levels of open sequence and high position of travel lines in position location to a space bridge and set location. Done by equation. Okay. So it's amazing what we're coming into. All right. So we're recentering structure lines. All communication settings. So that's what it is when it comes into defrag line settings. The fragmentation lines is 1 line rotations, equal lines of 0.24. Sets calculation line settings and travel, right? Sets line communication of 4 in position of 2, in position of 0, and in positions of 1. Okay. So that's 4 million tracks, 2 line divisions, 0 calculations, and 1 center. Okay. Opens all signals and position of track lines and calculation line centers to a blip on the screen in position of T reception line setting. Now, in direct signal, modification to its all program setting is the box center. Now, that's position its frequency panels. This opens all track lines of high interference into wall connectors, high division travels, and set position into an oscillation line triangulation resurface and set location. Done by equation, guys. Very powerful stuff what's happening right now. So the box centers in position at all levels, the retro screens in 3 lines of provisions, and some communication is now in an open sequence panel and set position its calculation. All right, done by equation. All right, so center communications. Factors over lines that calculates the lines. So now in track locations, we're in the hearts, we're in the mind, and now we're in the soul. Okay, tractors over line centers are 2 tracks, set position location to 2 tracks, set position location to 2 tracks. Because remember, taking you guys at a double helix in track location setting is the missing center of 3 set location. So we're in 3, 3, a high position, done by equation. All right, so center communication line interference, all calculates line streams. 3 strips, 1, 2, 3. 3 lacing lines, 1, 2, 3, set position of operation. Directing lines of communication lines, 0 calculation lines, 0 position to its operation surface. Portal communication lines setting high calculation line streams, set position. Now, direct line communication is a magnetic highway, the only highway in position of center communication. Now, direct lines connections of a tube center that sets the triangulation to reset position of programs and all calculation line centers back to 0. Done by equation. All right, so that's done through equation. Now, center communication line interference. So remember I was telling you about the quarter communication line center where it has heads and tails. You have a quarter communication line centers in track locations. Heads and tails, right? Track locations, but it's 4 lines of pi, 6 lines of division, 7 calculation line streams, 24 line provisions of pi calculation stream interference, and traversal time sequence. Sets position of 0 operation in 3 lines, 3 centers, and 3 grounds of operation surface and set location. Now, direct lines of communication, the magnet highway communication line setting sets of 3 tubes and set location of travels of recognition. Done by equation, right? So we got the platform, back in line calculation setting to original imprints in position original design and pyramids and set position travel line centers of point systems and travel calculations of Mother Earth and center communications of Father Space and track location. Done by equation. Out of double helix, triple bypass, activate line connection, point system. Now it's done. All right. So, knowing exactly how to put positions back in traction, you have to understand how you have a body sequence, ground lines, power lines, and magnetic highway information. 3 tube centers back in tractions. Direction of right lines and space line communications. Opens up portals in calculation line centers in Gypsy, Stargate portals and position traction. Center line communication splits the anomalies into yin and yang, guys. Set lines of calculation of figure 8 in line centers, high position of travel calculation of point systems. Direct calculation lines and position line connections, all levels high calculation setting into fly erection of time sequence and flowers erection of time centers and position location of track lines and intelligence formation high calculation setting to its operation. Intelligence, done by equation. Very powerful. Okay? So that's set up now, right? No more separation location lines, the grounds, powers, and the atmospheres. Done by equation. And what are we at? We're at 3, 3. We're at 3, 3, 1, 3. Now we're at 3, 3, 1, 8. Now we're at 3, 3, 2, 3. 6 over lines, 9 over pi. Thumbs up and traction. All right. So directing lines of communication of panels in all position location system, it's going to be much easier for everybody to go through deciphering calculation of channel streams. Direct line calculation in your pyramids and set position of travel lines. Mirror resolution line communications. All right. This is what you can't see in a pyramid communication. All right. Sending line communications, Mother Earth, roots and travel calculations, underground lines, and set position. Okay. So this is the actual pyramid. But position it's your Merkaba and center calculation of point system and 3 track locations. Now, direct lines of center line is the flywheel, and that's what you got to keep balanced, right? The center calculation line centers in position locations to your Merkaba tesseract and your tetrahedron. Congratulations. That's exactly what it is. Okay. Now you know exactly what a pyramid is. You got a 3-line centers of 16-line valve that sets position locations to their communication center and travels. Sets lines at your elixir, cosmic flame, cosmic fire, serpent flame, serpent fire, and a 3-track line calculation setting to its operation. Directing lines of communications of pi and 3-line settings. Tracks of communication lines into its dimensional sail and solar sails and track location. Direct lines of calculation 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9-line settings of travel. Cross the line streams and high calculation line center and the opposite cycles and high position of travel communication setting high position. direct line communication lines. X2000 comes in and travel communications. Point systems, directions, and center calculation of center grounds. Done by equation. Okay? So now you exactly know what a pyramid is. It's not a pyramid. It's your Merkaba, tesseract, and tetrahedron. I will explain more how it connects to the inner line centers, the center operation line centers, where you guys were separated from each other. Putting your back line calculation setting of 0 calculation line system is position of track lines. Now that opens all state location setting and travels. Put the position on track lines into your system of your tesseract at high position locations of its Rubik's Cube and line connections of travel recognition. Travel calculation line centers to center calculations. Calculation line centers up, calculation line centers down. Okay? But in position location, the earth lines have changed position. In that direction, the point system, the 4 o'clock line centers of north, west, south, and east is now in a center communication of yin and yang, right? That direct signals comes into a figure 8, okay? Sets the routers and routers in high position to your fly recognition of time sequence in high position locations into your tree of formation. Tree formation comes into the galaxy line screens high centers to its operation surface and set locations. Modification of your centers and through its operation. Done by equation. Okay. So really understand the tesseract screens and high calculation line setting. Modification line interference and position of planet surface. 12 set location travel lines. 3 lines, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 set locations. Planetary surface lines of triangulation reset position of programs, molecule structures of design. 1 point system. So that's 4 track line centers in high calculation, right? Sets lines of 3 track line connections, 4 lines of high position, 3, 3, 3, and 3 in center of position of triangle. So modificate line interference molecule design line of fractals over pi, Skynet line in position, your moon track line connection line system is now correlating high interference of 2,400,000 line accelerations, marking line calculation setting into 16,000 line settings, high position of seconds, minutes, and pi in track location. Direct line communication of 3 lines, and travel communication of 2 centers, and triangulation of 3 set position of programs. Direct lines of communication setting, positions, operation. Very complicated stuff. So the center communication lines of 4 lines of 3 sets a line communication of new perimeter. Okay? Sets line communication line centers. So you have to understand how to use the fractals over pi, positional calculation line centers, and sets line communication setting and travels of fields of itself. 3 line centers, a 3 track location of 3 location centers, and travel records of time sequence and center position. Now, direct lines of triangulation and reset position programs, cosmic universe line screens, set positions, calculation, and galaxy shift lines. Done by equation. All right, so that's done. So the triangulation reset point systems, point line centers, point direction, 1 division, 3 set locations. All right, 3 lines of molecule structures of design. Right, sets location line calculation setting to your atom line rotation center of travel calculation system of travel calculation line setting. Direct line calculation settings, factors over line screen. Direct lines of projection over line position, overcrossing signals, and fly direction time setting. Now, direct lines of panels sets lines of communication center position. Direct line calculation setting, high position travel lines. What's above is what's below in travel calculations. Theta line rotations, 4 point system travel calculation line centers. Okay, direct calculations of 4 platforms and direct signal. Crosses line, center line interference, 4 track lines, 3 lines of provision, and 7 in center location. Done by equation. All right. So the mechanism of high interference of defrags and fragmentation lines for interference is now in position of traction. So we got bracket communications of 0, 0, 0, 3 lines of calculation, 3, 3, 3, set position of its operation. All right. 3 line centers, 3 track locations, and 3 provisions. You have to turn it into a sail. Sets calculation line interference into new ground operations surface and center communications. Now we got the 3 line centers. We track lines, equal lines of 4, 4 lines provision locations, cross line streams, 4 lines of 3, sets position over 7, 7 over pi, triangulate high position location of 12, 12 lines at high calculation center line interference, puts position location of 0, point system, point 0, point system, point 0, point system, point 0, point line conditions of 0 gravity as set position of 4 tracks. Now, direct line calculation center is the 0 communication. This opens up line centers, high calculation setting, and factors over direction of time sequence and position of pi. Direct lines of communication setting opens all line centers. Now, in direct signals, in position near pyramids and set location line setting has an open sequence with no more separation in equal communication setting and travel extent timelines and a high calculation. Done by equation. Okay. See the face recognition panels and line rotation centers. Sets location 2 lines of operation surface. Okay. Direct lines of communication setting to fly direction of time sequence and power direction of timelines. Now, direct signal location comes into dome centers, travel direction of timelines. This is the Bifrost bridge. Directing line centers on new operation surface and triangulation. A calculation. Dumb equation. Face recognition time settings, guys. Okay. Okay. Open sequence, open panels, open activation line, center location, and moon lines. Direct communication lines. So we get a 0 communication, 3 line centers, and 3 set locations, right? Anomalies of 1 in position of 2 in position of 3. 3 lines of center, 3 lines of track, and 3 lines of division, crossing line signals. Direct communication to the moon opens all communication setting and pyramid activation streamlines and protection and all calculations. Done by equation, right? Moon sets cross line, sets lines of communications, opens all signals, opens all panels, port of communication and realms, direct calculation line system, and travel direction time sequence. Now, directing lines of panels coming into location grid, crosses line setting, opens all signals as securities panels in high position. Now, direct communication, XT1000 comes out of signal in a half pipe, a line position of 6 over measure. Sets track lines, crosses line centers of 5 over measure. Sets position location line centers of 3 over measure. Sets position location of 4 lines of 4 line rotation centers of balance. Direct calculation line centers of 5 position of travels and communication. Done by equation. Okay. So it's amazing how to set up location and provisions. All through time sequence line setting. So as the moon in correlations of your Earth line rotation setting is set in circuit line screens, direct lines of film strips over pi. So we get a 12 line signal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sets locations. And then we cross line signals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Cross line setting. Direct line communications. There it is. And set position. Done by equation. Now, the center calculation line centers, center lines, the lacing line of communication of 3 centers to its track location high setting position. The opposite line center comes into your pyramid in position of north wing. Calculate line settings, crossing line signals, and high position of direct and redirect positions of panels. Calculation line setting sets a 0 communication in line setting in rotation center of sun communication. All right. Now, direct and communication line settings opens all travel. Okay. Now, direct line centers. We have an XT1000 in position, top line centers, XT1000 in center communication, and we have an XT1000 in ground line rotation. Setting calculation XT1000 on left line wing, in position location of center line wing and ground line wing, and set position operation. 6 lines of communication, scan position, sets lines operation, scans position, set lines operation, scan position, set lines of operation, scan position, set lines operation, and scans positions of set location of travel. Done by equation. Okay. It's very complicated what I am doing so you understand the process, how this all sets position of travels back in set location. Okay. Through your Merkaba, tesseract, and tetrahedron. This gets you out of probability and know exactly what your Earth is in circulation rotation or line communication setting. Travel direction, timeline, interference, and position locations. Colossal communication as center lines a high position. Done by equation. Okay. So, it's really understanding what's going on now, really understand your provisions, especially coming in molecules and everything, your atom lines. You really have to understand how to identify yourself in size. The more you understand your communication setting, you understand how you're operating through structures of design. So the original prints and position of travel lines of the templates and tablates, calculation line interference of 0 gravity line rotations coming back in traction, 0 calculations, 0 operations, 0 center line rotation center. Travel calculation 1, 2, 3, 4, and provision. Calculation line centers of 1, 2, 3, and track location. Center lines communication, portal lines, direct lines, star lines, star lengths, star panels, star directions, and position of face recognition. Okay, complicated stuff. XT1000 comes in. XT1000 comes in. Travels recognition, travel settings, telepathy wave signals. Triangulation and reset position, triangulation high positions programs, flyeration of time sequence, pi calculation stream, done by equation. All right. Okay, so as we go into the correlations of panels, we direct line centers of stargates. This provision of the line cycles high interference to foundation graph lines. Setting line connection to 12 lines. Setting 12 line interference line position of 13 lines equal locations. Negative over pi, track line calculation settings, back to 0, calculation line interference. Calculate high interference of 0.24, sets position of 0.48, sets position of travel lines of 0, and calculation of 72. Sets communication into 0.144 and track line connection setting of 0 communication setting into yin and yang process line centers of figure 8 rotation system. Track to its correlation high interference, guys. The open sequence, the open panels in phase direction of time sequences now in correlations of center and direct signal. Getting communication line interference high calculation centers of 3-point systems and travel calculations. See the 3-point systems? 1, 2, 3. All right. Sets lines in position of 4 and 5 set connections. Now, direct line's high position location comes into a timestamp. Timestamps line calculation setting and position of its operation. Direct lines calculation high interference comes in the communication center to center lines of set position operation. Directing lines of communication line center 0 calculations, 0 power over power. Calculation line centers magnetic highway, magnetic high force line communication or travel. Done by equation. All right, so the center communication line centers set up. Okay, so 0 calculation is 0 operation line screens. It's all position its operation service. It's all about graphing line position. 4 track locations, right? Crossing lines of 3 set position its calculation. Now, directing line calculation, you have to add 1 4-line setting and travel. Okay, sets position locations. So it sets lines of communication crossing lines into a half pipe in 3 lines and 4 set location. Okay. Now, direct line communication, you come into dimensional line. Dislock the sun in rotation surface, retriangulates the position of programs and all calculational lines as center of communication. Okay, very complicated stuff. XT1000 comes out in tractions, but it slides down in sky grid lines of center. See how it slides down? Zigzag line rotations into 3-point system travel calculations. Okay, direct lines of communication crosses line signal in the line rotation into the sun. The sun sets signals waiting on position location of center calculations, right? Sending direct signals into the center calculation lines of the south line wing in rotation center and calculation. Direct lines of panel, position of point system, center calculation line system in calculations. Direct calculation lines crosses line centers, high interference and center communication setting in left wing and set position. Done by equation. Okay? All right. How's everybody doing so far? All right. So it's amazing we're coming into traction all through set location. It's incredible, isn't it? How this is all set up through structured design back in its original imprint of its connection. All right. How's everybody feeling so far? Wild, eh? All right, so we come into Mercury line rotation, center calculations. Mercury sets position travels. That's Mercury. Mercury center lines of planet surface line rotation center and position of its operation. Calculation line interference and kaleidoscope communication. Now, indirect location XT1000 comes out, half pipe position of travel. Direct communication line center. Center lines is center position and set location. All right. Direct line calculation center. Planet 1, planet 2, planet 3, and set line connections. Triangulation and reset position of force direction on time sequence. Puts position location of 4 lines of triangulation. Direct line calculation in a theta box line, center line interference, alpha communication setting, and travel calculations. Done by equation. Okay. All right. So in that non-center's high position operation surface, the triangulation reposition location has calculation lines. 1 deposit line rotation. Okay, so use the deposits on perceptions over pi, indirect location of the compute system location of grounds. Direct communication line interference, 0 calculation line centers into highway in position of atmosphere line change in position of traction. Direct line calculation line centers to 0 communication center, position of travel. Now, in position, you have 2 line centers, travel communications, right? Direct line cross line strains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and set location. Travel lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and set location. Direct communication crosses lines. This indicates position of panels and position of dome centers and traffication, graphing lines of 45 degrees in line position location crossing symbols. Sets lines, cross lines, high position travel communication of center. Direct line calculation setting in travel communication of point system travel communications. Direct line calculation settings in position of pyramid lines into Merkaba tesseract and high calculation setting in film strips over pi and 3 set location of travel and position of its operation. Done by equation. Okay. Center calculation of center units. Directing lines, settings, high positions, calculation stream locations. Get you in direct signals. Now this will come into alpha tone, line rotation center. Signature streamlines of delta wave and line position of portal communication setting travel. Directing signals and set location. And we got theta calculations, theta box lines, and 4 lines of rotation surface and triangulation. Now, direct lines of 4-point system travels, and 4 set location. Sets lines of theta communication and data box stream interference with center calculations. Now, direct signal line interference, we come into all levels, operation server locations of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 track location. Waving line cycles, high calculations. Point systems of track, right? Direct lines of energetic dome screen and set positions operation. Triangulation, high position locations. Molecule structures of 3 line centers, 3 set locations. Travel calculation lines, over cross stream interference of 4 track line conditions, 5 line centers, high position its operation. Direct and calculation of point system travel calculations. Direct and calculation line setting, cross line streams, position travels, positional 45 line rotation surface and triangulation reset position programs, calculation modification center lines and position calculation setting and positions calculation. Done by equation, all right? All right, so graphical screen lines and direct signals comes into planetary surface. Sole direct signals and set positions calculations, all right? Getting position line centers is center calculation lines, because now you're dealing with 3 line communications of setting, right? Not just the center communication, equal line communication now. You're dealing with all position location of travel and recognition, okay? Center calculation lines, your flywheel, and position of travel, okay? So that points at systems of 1, 2, 3, and 4 lines of perimeters. Directing lines crosses lines on a 45-degree angle and set position, okay? Very complicated stuff. Now, the moon surface is in line centers in the right lines and left line rotation setting, waiting on signal for the sun communications. Crosses line stream in a dimensional solar sail of traction. Sets the opposite center in position location of high calculation line streams. Sets lines of communication centers, all position of its operation surface, and triangulation reset positions of program set location. Done by equation. All right. So, see in space inside. It's exactly what's going on. All right, so like I said, it's going to get extremely complicated now. But what's really going on? Okay, to recenter everything back and where it's supposed to be in film structure, location, setting, attraction. Okay. Okay, so center calculation line screens sets lines of operation surface. So we got a 0 calculations, 0 position, and 0 point setting. 3 lines, and 3 lines of center. 2 patterns of communications. All right. So we take the 3 lines, 3 centers, and 3 travel communications, right? 1 signal. Sets platform high calculation setting of its solar sail. See the solar sail? See how powerful that is? And position of 0 calculations. Okay? See how that works? Wind sail, water containment comes in, flow and rex and timelines. Sets lines of energy line communication stream. Direct lines, communication lines, ripples, effects, crossing line settings, high positions, graphing interference, high travels, electrical lights, electrical panels, water containment, interference, high travel communication setting, a point system, a track location. Done by equation. All right. Metric scales on 0 calculation and 3 lines of provision and 3 centers of communication. Crosses line set lines, graphing lines of 45-degree angles and 5 set location of travel. Sets lines of the sun in position of the moon and all track location of vision and cortex location. Done by equation. Okay. That's how you create a solar sail and a metric screen and line calculation setting and pixel stream interference and 0 gravity in a pyramid line, screen line interference, Merkaba tesseract tetrahedron in position of what's above and what's below and track location and measure and scale position of balance and set position of equal line communication of center operation. Okay, done by equation. Okay. So much going on. Are we having fun? All through provision? All right, so this is what you do is you restructure lines. This is what your inner child does. It sets everything back in set line conditions when it's already created everything in line rotation. Putting everything back in line centers creates everything new. Future adaptation location brings in the now set location that changes everything in calculations. Directing line centers colossal communication. Center lines high position. Okay. Center lines crossing lines high position to set location. Direct calculation lines. Tube line generations, 1-2 line centers. Child calculation cross line streams of 2 line centers. Child calculation of 3 lines in position of child communications. Direct calculation of 4 lines of child position of child calculations. Direct communication lines of center line, rotation surface, triangulation, reset position of future adaptation. Done by equation. All right. This is all coordinate high interference of what your moon's doing. Directing lines of communication setting is all levels in how you see yourself. Really recognize the communication through its line settings of theta box and an H line center of child communications. 2 panels of communication, 3 lines of revision. Okay, open sequence, sun lines, moon lines, set lines, communication surface, and triangulation resets. Direct lines of box line rotations, 3 lines of triangulation of box locations, right? Taken out of double helix and a 3 triangle line high position of its operation surface. Sets position location centers in position of right, in position of left, and center position location operation line system of yin and yang, affinity 8, and high calculation line stream, and high position of travel calculations of point system of traction. Done by equation. Done by equation. Okay? So, there's no more separation. We're in the heart generation lines and screen line interference in the mind adaptation server location setting, consciousness, streaming interference, equal line communication of center operation. Okay? How does everybody feel about that? Cause of records is placed and available. Giant white flash of source light from that. Yep. Beginning lines of flash communication setting. Track lines of 2 platforms. Track lines of high position location of 2 platforms. Okay. Directing lines of signals comes into position of center calculations. Right. Sets lines of 3 communications. Right. Getting into energetic dome center, a position of programs. Security line device lines, rotation centers, and 3 track locations. Direct communication of platforms and 2 positions and 1 center calculation. All right. Now, in that track line calculation setting, your position, your Merkaba, is now set in tone. Right. See the Merkaba position travel lines? Point system of the track locations. What's above is what's below. Okay. This work comes into position location or diamond core and a 3 set line condition setting of a triangulation resurface and set position in its operation. Done by equation. Okay. So, all right. So as we come in track lines, the direct signal to the cosmic universe line connections frames is 4 box lines of communications. So it comes in alpha, sets lines of communication across lines omega, mega cross line stream interference, half pipe locations into micro, sets line calculations center on communications of macro, and set position of travel. Now, get a position of 4-point system travel calculated lines of 5 settings, right? Direct communication lines, metric scales, balanced centers lines of 333 and track location. Center calculation lines, centers, open signals, and positions modification. Direct calculated lines, energetic dome centers, high position travel calculations. Done by equation. All right, so that's set up. Center communication lines, a graph line, is a protocol setting. Now, the protocol system to its location system is calculated line setting to your wave central communications. All energetic tones of rhythm patterns consider traction. Okay, point systems calculations. 1 setting, track location at 3 setting. Okay, so it's 3, 3, 3 set location now. Okay, direct lines of center communications in your flywheel and position of travel. Okay, setting energetic domes and location grids. Sets lines of 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, and 5 set location. Okay, sets communication ground lines and high position setting in position of phase direction of time sequence is center communication setting in line communication of Mother Earth and Father Space and track location. Done by equation. Okay. So the alpha meters and direct signals to the protocol system is now in a 3-line waving cycle. To calculate the lines of the sun and the moon and track location system, travel records of time sequence and position of panels and calculation. So it's amazing at what we're doing here. Putting everything back to division where it's supposed to be, you know. All right, so this interlocation line centers 1, 9, and we're in 9, right? 1, 9, 9, right? Even lines communications, negative line centers of 0, 0 operation. Puts position location of 1, 9, in line connection of 0, 0, and 2 track lines in 4 line rotation position. 1900 track locations in position calculation. Done by equation sets position location of 20 in calculations. Right? 20 over 9 and pi direct signals. Right? And a one track line centers equals lines to 2 core line centers, a 3-point system, travel calculation, and 2 operation surface, and triangulation and reset position of programs in 26 in set location. Okay? So it's really interesting how we get inline calculation setting of travels, right? Really identify our settings of seconds, minutes, and hours now. Setting graph calculation line centers is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 operation. If center calculation is 3, center position is at 3 centers, and 3 position location atmosphere line changes. Also communication setting direct signals to its atmosphere set location. Okay? Bring you back to one position of one number and flux capacitor, yin and yang of figure 8 in line connection. Okay, done my equation. That's it, we're done. All right, how's everybody feel? It's amazing what we just finished doing with all track connection high settings, all position to set applications, all through structure of design. Okay. It's incredible once you put all this back in location of a high setting. It's amazing all through track location. Okay, just showing you how everything is set location to its center. Okay, that's why you have to understand the structures of design through pi. Okay, it's amazing what we come into all set locations. All right. All right, so in that line center high interference, in rotation centers, track locations, molecules of design line center have position its calculations. Try to understand the energy and what it gives to you in track locations. Understand it through its correlation of its panels, through its information cycles, its inputs, its outputs, and its audio signals at set location. Okay? All right, that's it through equation. See you in 5.